we have made that bold statement to say, it's true, we've only got 18%. And, you know, the campaign that we launched was, for me, is all about how do we get more women into our business from different industries, women who haven't worked for a while, women who just don't see it as the opportunity for them for whatever reason. Could be in a career break, could be in that situation, maybe nervous to do something slightly different. So we've put it out there.
Where have you put it out? Internally or externally?
Internally and externally.
Okay. And how's that been met internally? Because if you've got 18% of women, the majority, obviously male, how are they feeling about that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good question. I mean, this is what makes the topic so difficult for us. And again, when I joined the organisation, I was sort of quite gung-ho initially, saying, let's get more women into our business. And noticed, understandably, it can almost make men feel a little bit like, so why? There's no place for me. So am I not good enough? You know, why is it important to have more women? You know, we have a good organisation, we have great people, and if they want to join, they'll join. Surely and
it's the right person for the role. But it's about diversifying our talent. That's what it is. And making sure that we are representing the demographics and the customers that are shopping with us. And
actually, why are you focusing on, you know, you're focusing on diversity, but actually it feels like you're only focusing on bringing in women, and diversity is much broader than that. And actually, the reason why it's so important for us, I think, firstly, we know that the better gender balance there is in a business, the more high performing it is. You know, any research that you look at says that. Not only in senior but across the whole organisation. So, you know, yes, there's a social aspect to it, but if we want to win as a business, if we want to have, you know, innovation and ideas and collaborative working and a better culture, has to have a better gender balance. And actually, by focusing on women first, that's the easier one to get to because that's our biggest opportunity. And research also says that when you have a balanced gender within a business, other diversity follows. So this is the bit where that's why that's the first step in. It's the first step in, and the rest will follow. And actually, when we talk about diversity in any event, whilst we do have a focus on hiring more women, we refer to diversity in terms of diversity of thought. Yeah. So this is about different experiences, different perspectives, which is why our International Women's Day campaign was really focused on, you know, it doesn't matter which industry you're coming from.
What's your plan? How are you going to do it?
Wow, we're partnering with you, Anne.
SmartWorks is always a win.
You know what, there's not one fix, is there? We know that, you know, we know that it's an industry-wide challenge. It's not a Rexel challenge, it's an industry-wide challenge for us.
No, but there's something, and again, without knowing Rexel in your different roles, it's understanding the application process and also the flexibility, because if you recruit women, if you recruit lone parents, there has to be a different level of flexibility than perhaps with the majority of your workforce that you've got now. You know, start times, just those things that crop up if you were just trying to manage a family life, and you're the only person doing it.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting on that point, back to the 80% men, 82% men in our business, when we've brought in much more flexibility than we used to. So, you know, hiring managers and internal managers are actually quite enjoying having that flexibility in the workforce. What we're seeing is actually men want the flexibility. You know, we say women balance will be attracted if they get the flexibility, but the reality is both do. So we've introduced enhanced family leave. Men want that too. It's as important to both. I think our biggest issue is what's the root cause. It is. We're starting to measure that now. We need the insight as to actually why aren't
aren't we seeing the women applications that are coming through, or what part of our process maybe isn't supporting that. And I think, the work that we'll do around attraction will definitely help that, but we really need to understand that. And I think actually spending time at your centres and really speaking to some of the women that are coming in and having those challenges and have lost confidence in processes is really helping us as well feed into insight, not data insight as in numbers, but as in real insight that's coming from real job search.
What
who are work ready.
The other thing, it's always about the existing women that you've got there. It's that what made you join, what made you think that this is the industry or the company for yourselves, because that is the one that, if you're a woman and you're sat there and you're thinking, that's not for me, you see a woman speaking about it and how she got there, but also how easy she's found it, because actually sometimes they can get the jobs, but it's being able to keep the jobs and being able to feel that they're part of a workforce and they're not just a tick box exercise. That's the real nut, because people fall out of jobs. They have these ideal jobs, they walk in, they start, but then the atmosphere, the environment isn't comfortable for them. And then they drop out. And you'll have seen that with some of the clients when they've had great roles and they'll say, so why did you leave? And it will be this, and this, and this. And you think, well, actually, that could have been sorted out if you'd had a conversation. But they may have had the conversation and people are like, oh, we've never been asked that before. Well, you haven't, because you've had a different demographic working for you previously.
And with your so the successful ones, the ones you place that then you see leaving, do you see themes that come up there?
If it's women that have gone into a very male dominated area, then yes, because for some organisations it's great, the senior managers all want that diversity.
And I think that's what drove the initial partnership with us, wasn't it? Was that actually we need another channel to attract, because women aren't applying to our adverts as much as we'd like them to. So actually, coming across you and your organisation has been a real, opportunity for us, and one that we'll obviously continue to explore. But I think it's just another channel that we need to be able to have to let women know about us as well and what we do. Electrical wholesale isn't something maybe you ever go, I'm just finishing school and I'm going to work in electrical wholesale. It's not the first thought maybe.
But I think the beauty of having you all in, I mean, you're all women apart from lovely Jevon, but you've all come in and that's the industry you're in. So when you've got women sat, so who do they work for? And then you're telling them, and we're like, oh, I mean, it's lovely having Jevon in, because Jevon coming in and coaching the women, and then sometimes he'll tell them what he does. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, he really enjoys it as well, Jev, doesn't he? And all of our career coaches that are volunteering are really enjoying it, and we need to do more of that across the other centres with yourselves. But it's real development for us as well, and it gives us an opportunity to just kind of make sure we continue to be grounded and relatable to actually what the market is saying and what candidates are experiencing. We talked about just before you arrived, Ray, about kind of these ghost adverts, and actually there's a lot of vacancies that aren't genuine vacancies, and it's just continuing to knock confidence of people, not just women, all candidates.
Does so much damage.
And there's no wonder people are in a point where actually they're losing confidence to even apply for jobs now.
Well, we did our unemployment index launch back in January, and the latest figures, I mean, this is the 4th year of launching it, and it steadily got worse. You'd sort of think, okay, 2 years post-COVID, it was a pretty dire situation, but then you think, okay, it will stabilise and it will start to get better. Well, it hasn't, it's got worse. And you think about those ghost jobs. On average, one of our clients applies for over 35 jobs before they secure an interview. And if you've already got experience, what that does to your self-esteem, because you think, I've done the job, why all of a sudden am I unemployable? If you're just starting, then you think, oh God, you start to lose hope because you've never had an interview. And they may have applied for 35 jobs before they've even got the interview stage. But then they quite often will have had 50 interviews. I mean, my goodness me. before securing a job. And what that does to your self-esteem every day. And the horrible thing about these ghost jobs is that on paper, you look like, you fit all the criteria. You go off for the interview. You have the interview. You're not successful. And then the job will come around again 3 or 4 months later. And you think, well, okay, they said they'd contact me if if something else came up. You're not contacted again. And then it comes up again, 4 or 5 months after that. But that job never existed. Yeah. And it's recruiters gathering a talent pool for when they do need to recruit. And that's, that's their business practice, as, distasteful as it is. But at the end of that, there's a client, isn't there? Yes. There's a woman that has put herself up, made herself quite vulnerable, because you are very vulnerable when you're going for an interview situation. You've put yourself into that situation and you're rejected. And each time that happens, your confidence is slowly being chipped away at.
When you think about the women that you support as well, a lot of these women, their confidence is already, and some of the women that I've met coming in, their confidence is already so low. Yeah. That under normal circumstances, to go through 30 odd,
even for a confident person
is hard enough. So it's really difficult, isn't it? And also it doesn't help the reputation of the businesses that do this.
It doesn't, but they don't know that. No. To them, that's a genuine job that they're applying for. So they're not aware that that's a recruitment practice that
they were never going to get anywhere.
Exactly. So it's just a rejection, isn't it? Yeah. But then there's the other end of the scale where people are applying for these jobs. They're not getting acknowledged that they've even put an application in, but sometimes, they're having to chase for feedback for an interview. Now, I don't know, I've worked for, I'm in my 50s now, and I've recruited people for the last 35 years. I've never not given feedback on an interview.
It's the least you can do.
It's the very least, isn't it? And some people don't ask for it, but I've always made a point that if I've, and you have to sometimes reject people for application, of course you do, because, they're not right for the role, or there's too many people applied. But I will always give them feedback, and it will always be something positive, so they've got that to take away. But then there'll be something that perhaps they can work on, but at least they know
it's constructive, and they can utilise it for the next.
But to not get an acknowledgement that when you've applied for a job, or even if you've got to an interview, to have to chase to say, was I successful? Because people will sit by the phone or emails, and they wait for that response. And, maybe it's 3 weeks, and sometimes we say, well, did you ask them? Well, no, they said they'd contact me. And you think, don't keep people waiting for that long.
Again, back to your point on keeping and retaining them, we want to have a culture where women, actually, they feel that they belong. They feel they can voice their opinion. And so we have to work as hard internally as we do on the attraction piece, to your great point.
I think what you said about having a workforce that reflects the community, because that's it, isn't it? I love the fact that women are the starting point for the diversity, because once you've got that, you open it up. Ethnicities, age, disabilities. I mean, you'll have seen our projects that we're doing at SmartWorks. It's all about that. It's all about putting people on an equal playing field, but the challenges that some people need to overcome before they even get to that same starting point. And again, going back to our index report, if you're a woman, you fall down, you're a little less likely to get the job. If you're a woman from a minority ethnicity, a little bit further behind. Look at Birmingham, a super diverse city. That's the majority in Birmingham, but actually you're still at a disadvantage. Add a disability into that, and that can be any disability, hidden or visible. You're further back. My goodness me. So if you're a woman of a certain age with a disability from a minority ethnicity, well, just go and wait in the corner. That's it. It is that. Sure. And that's where by introducing, starting with women into the workforce, it does actually open up that understanding that not everybody has to be the same. Because it's interesting, and you think about it now, you think, well, why did we ever do that? But I worked in recruitment, and I did it for a couple of years, and we used to have job specs come out to us from employers, and it had their ideal candidate, which was great, and it had all these characteristics on and everything else, and because that was who had always worked well and were high achievers. So that was who we would look for. But what that did is it just ruled out probably
So
70% of the people that could equally have done
And
that
didn't
job.
bring you that creativity or
anything.
diversity into the
Absolutely.
current workforce.
And that was pretty standard in recruitment.
Yeah, it was. When I was in agency, it was.
Yeah, it was.
You filled the role with the same person that you filled the role with before. And
because they'd worked well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and that's where you start with having, if you bring women in, well, it automatically brings in a different way of thinking, and then it opens it up to everything else that you know, perhaps, you know, could be more, you know.
Yeah, and Lisa's. I'm looking at Lisa's while you were talking. There, I was thinking about some of what you and your team are doing to make sure
our attraction is focused on behaviours.
Yeah.
It's very much, you know, from the point that we advertise a role, we talk about our competencies and our behaviours, and it's all around potential for us. We can absolutely train the skill. But if we hire the behaviours, you know, then that is in itself is our starting point. So throughout our recruitment process, those same behaviours appear in the job advert, they appear in the role profile. They're what we talk to you about during the interview process. So actually it preps our candidates anyway. But we're focusing on the right things. And if we've got those behaviours, we can build.
You can train
there.
everything
100%.
else. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this is, and this is, you know, for SmartWorks, we all our coaches are volunteers, and prior to lockdown, it used to be a day a week in the centre in person. So the only people that when we could have as our volunteer team were women of a certain age that had perhaps retired, or that they'd got the flexibility in work that they could take a day off to come and volunteer. Now we've introduced we've introduced the virtual service. We've got corporates that are still working day to day, who are very much in the real life situation, because it's changed, you know, quite dramatically post lockdown.
Yeah.
So, and actually the way of thinking for some of our coaches who are excellent and have got wonderful experience of job roles and can absolutely coach for interview preparation. But actually, we've all been on a little bit of a journey in understanding how the workplace is now as opposed to it was when we first opened 10 years ago. It's changed dramatically.
The market's shift massively. The way that we screen and the way that we approach our recruitment practices changes, and it has to, because it has to reflect the pace of the market,
Absolutely.
but also the needs of the candidates.
Yeah.
And for us, it's about the candidate experience that's super important, because we wouldn't want anybody to come through our process and feel any less confident than they did at the start of that process, even if they're unsuccessful.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And that's it, isn't it? So we map at Wills, you know, when we do the questionnaire at the end with our clients, how confident do you feel about the interview? And we've never fell below the 90s, mid-90s, for how they feel about what they can talk about in an interview. But that questionnaire before, when they first come in and they're just sitting having a coffee 5 minutes into visiting the centre, how do you feel about your interview? It's a very different picture, and that's because of all the negative experiences that they've had before. Because quite often they've applied for roles in good faith, they tick all the criteria, they go in, they have their interview, and then they've been completely blindsided and have come out feeling worse, and then that probably puts them back from, you know, sometimes a couple of months before they feel ready to put themselves back out there again.
What I've found with when we've come to do the coaching sessions at the Birmingham Centre is the ladies have already been for their fit out in wardrobe, so they've gone and picked an outfit. So you kind of see them when they first walk in, and exactly that kind of really bit anxious, not really sure what's going to happen here. By the time they come into the coaching room, they've got a bag full of new clothes, already feeling better, because if you're dressed and you feel, you know, good in yourself, that helps. And throughout that kind of hour that we spend with them, they just relax a little bit. And you just, don't you, like, as it goes through that session, you go, okay, now we're getting into it. And a lot of the ladies that I've seen have been really open and really quite vulnerable. And I think as a coach, from a development perspective, you also have to be able to, manage that emotion in that moment with them. But they leave there, and just for that hour, you can see the impact, and that's what's so rewarding from a volunteering perspective, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I found exactly the same experience. So they're almost, their eyes light up with you start off because they come in, they feel like that's an interview.
Oh, absolutely.
So even at the
it's
start, and it's no matter how much you say to them, just relax, this is informal, this is just a chat about that's not how they feel. They think, we've got it's like an interview before the interview.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. So sometimes we'll get phone calls before from clients saying, what do I have to wear? And you think, you turn on what you want, come as you are. But the beauty of having the styling first, so the beauty of having the styling full stop, is that they come in, they sit down, they've got a little coffee, and they're nervous, as you say. But then they go through to the styling session and they put the clothes on, and all of a sudden they come out of the fitting room, they look in the mirror and they look like somebody who's in work. So that psychological effect is just like, okay, well, I look the part now.
Yeah.
But also our stylists who are wonderful, they're very gentle, and a lot of the feedback we get more often than not is that it feels like I'm, shopping with my sisters or my mum.
Shopping.
I
want to sell some of your latest wardrobe.
But that's it, and it's deliberately that way. But it's also a chance for them to, because I say it's very hard to keep your boundaries up if you're standing there in your bra and knickers. It all of a sudden
gets very real when you're in your bra and your pants.
Less formal, isn't it? So all of a sudden, all those sort of anxieties will come out, and it means that the stylist can sort of talk them through very gently, and this looks amazing, but calms them down. By the time they get through to the coaching session, it's not so intimidating because they already feel like, one big happy little bunch, which we are. But then they go in and all of a sudden they sit in that room again, which is very officey, and they're like, but those questions, it's about, you ask them a question, which they'll have been asked in every single interview, because some things are just very generic, aren't they? And how did you answer it? And they'll have said the same thing for like the last, 30, 40 interviews that they've been to, and they haven't got the job. But when the coach, who's got to know them a little bit more, because it's not an interview, because they are just chatting to you, and you've had a chance to understand a little bit about their life, you can help them to answer those questions very honestly, but in a way that, one, sells themselves very positively. Sometimes it doesn't evoke any sort of horrible emotions because of whatever reason they've been out of work may have done. But it's also a very safe space that if they do get emotional talking about their experiences of other interviews, that you can just, well, that was that. That was, a pretty poor experience. But that's not on you. That's on the
and this is how you could frame it differently.
Absolutely. And this is how you can talk about your life. You can talk about your experience. And then it's that light bulb moment. And that's when they're like, go, oh, and should I mention this? And should I mention that? And they start out, yes, absolutely. You did what? You're managing what? Oh, my God, yes. And it's all the voluntary work that they've done that they just dismiss.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I had exactly the same experience. So you start off, and there's just what could you draw on? What experiences? I haven't really done that. No, that's not really in my. And then as you dig in, and then they'll start talking about other things, and they might say, "Oh, well, for example, I spent a long time caring for my mother," and I was like, "Well, you're going for a care assistant role. It's a caring role. You've just done exactly that
to someone that means the most to you.
And it's
the toughest role.
And it's fast. And I think there's almost, and it's one of the things I think Lisa and I probably need to think about. How do we get more? Obviously, we've got a few people within our business at the moment doing the coaching, but more people almost as a coaching development experience, because you have so much more of an impact than you probably would necessarily in our own corporate world, where we kind of know each other, and we do coach and we coach our teams.
But it's about sometimes. I mean, you're dealing with complete strangers when they come into our sessions. They're complete strangers to us, aren't they? So you've got to build that rapport very quickly. And that in itself is a skill, isn't it? To try and, develop that so that they feel open enough to talk about sometimes very personal life situations to you. That, for anybody who's managing a team of people, anybody at whatever level, they need those skills and they need to be able to understand that actually you can look at somebody, you never know what's going on in somebody's life, and that the way that they present themselves, the way that they speak to you, the way that they talk, mood swings, there's always something behind it. And if you've not been exposed to, people before that have had those very honest conversations with you, then you don't necessarily know how to navigate them, do you? Whereas when you become a coach and you coach, clients from all different backgrounds as we do at SmartWorks, that's a real skill that you develop unknowingly sometimes. But then you'll recognise that, perhaps in somebody in your team will say something, you'll have a better understanding of it, and you'll have a better understanding of how you manage those emotions.
What opportunities do you have? So we spoke earlier about the development opportunities for people in our team.
So for coaches, it's always, because for styling, I'm not sure that other than just having a nice opportunity to, for them to come out and support the charity. But I think the coaching is the one that's really beneficial to you, mainly because it is meeting people from all different backgrounds, understanding the challenges, but also with coaching is more about listening than it is about speaking, as you know. And sometimes as a leader, that's exactly what you're needing, isn't it? Also, if you think about the career paths that your team coming in at graduate level, maybe, what's their next step?
Not necessarily graduate level.
When they're joining the company, what do they want to do? Do they want to come in and stay in that role, or do they want to think about moving on, even sideways to different roles, different sectors? Different departments, or promotions? Because those conversations, when you join our coaching teams, when you join SmartWorks as a volunteer, you're exposed to a lot of coaches. I think you walk into that room, and myself, sometimes I sit there, and before I've even got as far as having my first cup of tea, somebody's coaching me, because you're unable to not. It's all about, it's an environment where we're about supporting women.
And we are looking at more robust, so identifying where's our key talent in all levels of our organisation. So not just the senior roles, but where have we got potential that we can grow and grow into different roles, grow into leadership roles. So this could be a great offering for us to say, well, actually, if we're investing in them in the time to, whether it's buddying up, to your point, love that idea, coaching, but certainly those who maybe have some coaching skills, that how do we develop them further in a really different setting? And actually
Different setting.
A much more rewarding setting. And certainly my experience is more impactful. So I think definitely one for us.
I think, in terms of all of the volunteers, and sometimes they come in and they do admin, but I think sometimes you look at somebody else's life and some of those conversations can be quite emotional, can't they? Quite challenging. But actually you see somebody on the other side going into work, and that, we talk about volunteering, people do it for all sorts of different reasons, but you want the end goal to work, but you don't always see it. And I think with SmartWorks, absolutely with SmartWorks, and when I started, I was a coach, was a volunteer for the first 18 months. But the value was every session I delivered, every coaching session, I came away thinking, I've made a difference. So for that personal win, I got that every single day, because even if somebody goes off and they don't get the job, that's fine. They go away feeling better about themselves. They go away feeling more confident and more capable. And at the end of that, if there's a mother and she goes away and she's feeling better about herself, the family that evening feels better.
Wider
and
than
it,
just
and it ripples, doesn't it?
It does.
But you see that, and for anybody, whatever role they're doing in there, so if you've got junior members of the team that perhaps are not ready to be coaches, but actually coming in and spending a day shadowing one of you coaches, their senior, to see that they would still feel that because they're part of it.
They're contributing
And
to
it's
it.
contributing
It's
to
still
it.
growth.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
It's absolutely growth. So I want to have my
So what's the ambition for this year then, Anne? How many
sessions
Gosh, have you got? This is just Birmingham.
This is just Birmingham. So Birmingham will cover the whole of West Midlands, but from our centre, we are hoping to support 710 women through interview preparation, which is good and absolutely needed. But the real growth in the service is 400 career coaching sessions, and that's to help people to secure an interview, or perhaps it's those conversations which absolutely your team could help with. Is that what's your next steps? Here you are now. What have you done before? What do you like to do? Because sometimes it's as simple as that. If somebody hasn't worked, what do you like to do? What have you done in your personal life that could lead you to a job opportunity? And it can be those conversations. It can be workshops about, CV workshops, sitting and saying, this is what you need to include. This is what you don't need to include. This is how you talk about yourself positively. Sometimes, skills analysis is the best thing, because all of us carry around skills that you just take for granted, that you don't recognise. And sitting with someone that sees them in you, somebody that doesn't know you,
that are totally transferable.
That's it. But you don't know them, so you haven't got that investment.
No.
It's not like you're being the friend and you're just saying it to be nice. It's the fact that you recognise that in them, and that absolutely your team, the junior team would know that, because they'd sit in front of women that they can relate to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. So 400 career coaching sessions, 710 interview preparations, and then if you think about that, of all of the women that we see, 69% of those go on to get a job.
Your centres are so well aligned to our locations as a business. Edinburgh, fantastic for us. Leeds, London. There's 3 in London, isn't there? So I think there's people in those areas that will know, the types of people in their communities that will want to have this, but also will really benefit from a development perspective. Absolutely. So I think that is the next phase for us as a partnership. Birmingham is absolutely where we've really wanted to start this, and will always be that. But
you can't leave me.
Well, never, Anne. You won't get rid of us. But I think, the opportunities with SmartWorks Futures, where actually that's funded now by the Mayor of London,
That's
isn't it?
right. So the vacancies that you've got down there, if those are shared with SmartWorks, then the clients that are going through SmartWorks, which will have been through the career coaching sessions or the interview prep and have been unsuccessful at an interview, our coaches in the 3 centres will be able to look and think, okay, so this lady's got this experience, she's absolutely work ready, and then they can signpost them to you, which is great, because then we know as SmartWorks that we're signposting to a company that has done the due diligence, that knows how to. You're not advertising ghost jobs. You're not having those horrible recruitment practices. That in good faith, then we can signpost to those opportunities, knowing that the client at the very least will be treated respectfully. That's all you want, isn't it?
Yeah, we want people to join us at every level of their career, and if we've got people that come in that want to continue at that level, that's fine. But if we've got people that want to continue to develop, also fine, and that can be in a straight line or in a cross-functional way. But even those that are happy in current role, there are development opportunities that can continue to grow within that role as well. So I think there's opportunities at always, isn't there, at all stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether people want to move into more sales, whether we've restructured our organisation to create more opportunity for development, whether it's leadership. So absolutely. And we're looking at ways to develop and create new programmes. I'm hiring more support internally for those development opportunities. So there's a lot, regardless of which level you come in, to your point,
or which way you see your career going. And we have people join us in a role and they end up in something completely different. We have a lady in our marketing team who started in a branch and was a branch manager, and I think probably saw herself as a branch manager, and a new opportunity came up, and now she's in our merchandising team. So it's sometimes you don't even know what's there until you're in and you start to understand the business and all of the different ways that you can shape that.
I love to see people pivot from one career to another. I love it. I find it absolutely fascinating, but I love it when you can do it in the same organisation.
Yeah.
You know, when you can do it in a company and that scope is there, that you can change departments and you've got the support to do so.
We love it because we've invested. You know, we do invest a lot in development. So to see that staying with us, albeit in a different opportunity, to us, that's growth for them and growth for us.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's super important.
I met a lady earlier this week and she's had 32 years in one company, and she's an amazing woman. She's full of life. She's like, nothing is going to stand in her way, but she's on her 5th different role in that organisation. And I said, what makes you stay? And it was exactly that. And she said, because they give me the opportunity to try different things. And she got seconded somewhere for 1 month just as a taster. If you don't like it, you can come back. She ended up leading that department and then staying there for like 4 or 5 years. But 32 years in, that's real, value for money. Whatever they've invested in her, they've got it back. But not only that, she talks about it everywhere she goes. So she's literally a walking advertisement.
Biggest champion.
Absolutely, and I love that. And I just think, that you don't think that when you're filling out your application form for this role. You just need a job sometimes, don't you? But being able to join a company that encourages that is amazing. I love that.